My husband named our daughter Garbage. Now he's saying I'm overreacting for wanting a divorce. We've been married for 2 years, but we've known each other for 7. He was always the funny one, the class clown, the guy everyone loved to be around because there was never a dull moment. He could make a whole room laugh without even trying. That's what made me fall in love with him. I've always been more serious, more reserved. I liked structure, calm, stability. He was the opposite, loud, unpredictable, always joking. I used to think we balanced each other out. He'd make me loosen up, and I'd keep him grounded, at least that's what I thought. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped being his balance and started being his excuse. He would make jokes that crossed the line, the kind that made people uncomfortable, the kind that hurt. And every time, I was the one stepping in afterward, apologizing, explaining, smoothing things over. That's just how he is, I'd say with an awkward smile. That became my role in the marriage. I don't know exactly when I started falling out of love with him. Maybe it wasn't one moment, but if I had to choose one, it would be the day he called me fat in front of my coworkers while I was 3 months pregnant. No one laughed, they just stood there, exchanging uncomfortable glances, pretending they hadn't heard it. For the first time, I didn't apologize for him, I didn't laugh it off. I just stepped back. That was the moment I realized he wasn't going to change. Every time I tried to talk to him about it, told him he was being mean or that he needed to take things more seriously, he would just laugh and say relax, live a little, like my feelings were the problem. My pregnancy was rough, I was constantly sick, always at the doctor, barely able to get out of bed some days. Thank God for my parents and my friends, because they were the ones who showed up for me, they were the ones who took care of me, not my husband. He called me dramatic, lazy, said I was overreacting. By then I knew my marriage was over, I just didn't leave. Anna, I whispered, the name coming out so naturally, so right. Annalisa, we had said, Anna for short. She moved slightly in my arms, and I swear she smiled. But when I looked up, the nurses were staring at me, not smiling, concerned. I ignored it, I was too wrapped up in the moment, too in love to think anything was wrong. Can I sign the birth certificate? I asked. The room went quiet. They looked at each other before one of them spoke. Your husband already handled that. I frowned slightly but didn't think much of it. We had already agreed on the name. There was nothing to worry about. Can I see it? They hesitated. That should have been my first warning. But eventually, one of them handed it to me. I looked down. And everything inside me dropped. Written in big, clear letters at the top, Garbage. My hand started shaking. What is this? I asked, my voice rising before I could control it. The room felt smaller, tighter. My heart was racing. I started yelling. I don't even remember exactly what I said, just that I was screaming, asking how this could happen, demanding someone explain it to me. And right on cue, he walked in. Smiling, holding a big blue balloon. It's a boy, he shouted, laughing. Happy April Fools. What was supposed to be the best day of my life turned into tears, anger, stress, and confusion. By the time I realized what he had done, it was already too late. The name had been filed, official, legal, permanent, unless I fought to change it. And while I was trying to process everything, trying to hold my newborn in my arms and not break down, my husband kept acting like it wasn't a big deal. Like this was just another one of his jokes that I would eventually laugh at. I didn't laugh. I called my parents from the hospital, my voice shaking as I explained everything. There was silence on the other end for a moment, and then my mom spoke, firm and immediate. You're coming home, no hesitation, no questions. By the time I was discharged, everything was already arranged. My things, the baby's things, everything had been moved to their house. I didn't even have to go back, and I didn't. The moment I stepped into my parents' home, something in me finally settled. It wasn't perfect, nothing was, but it was safe, it was calm, it was everything my marriage hadn't been. My daughter, she was everything, bright, alert, always watching, always learning. She picked up on things so quickly it amazed all of us. And despite everything, despite how she came into the world, she was surrounded by love, real love. The kind I had begged for without even realizing it. We all adored her. I filed for divorce that same month. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts, but not everyone understood. People who didn't know the full story started taking his side. Saying I was being dramatic. That it was just a joke. That I was ruining a marriage over something small. Meanwhile, my husband didn't take it seriously at all. He thought I was joking. He actually laughed when he got the papers. Told his friends I had finally learned how to be funny. That I was pranking him back, like this was all part of some game, like I would come back, like I always did, but this time I didn't. I didn't stop him from seeing his child, I never would, no matter how angry I was. I knew my daughter deserved access to both parents. But I was always there when he visited. Always watching, always present, because I didn't trust him. Not after that. At first he still treated everything like a joke. Like I would eventually calm down, come back, laugh it off like I always had before. But that changed the moment my lawyer contacted him about finalizing the divorce. That's when it finally hit him. He showed up crying, apologizing, promising he would change, saying he didn't mean it, that he wasn't thinking, that he would do anything to fix it. But I was done. Completely done. I wasn't going to stay another day in a marriage where my feelings, my pain, and even my child's identity could be turned into a joke. At home, we all called my baby Anna. That was her name, that was who she was. But everywhere else it was different. At the hospital, at appointments, anywhere official. I had to use the name on her birth certificate. Garbage. Every single time I said it, my chest tightened. My heart broke a little more. It felt wrong, humiliating, like I was failing her in some way even though I was fighting as hard as I could. The process to change her name was long, longer than I expected. Paperwork, delays, back and forth. And the worst part was him. He refused to cooperate, dragging things out, ignoring requests. Making everything harder than it needed to be. Not because he didn't understand anymore, but because he wanted to spite me. But I wasn't playing with him, this wasn't about us, this was about my daughter. And I made sure, one way or another, that everything got done. By her first birthday, her name still hadn't been changed. We celebrated anyway. Balloons, cake, laughter. Everyone calling her Anna like we always had. But deep down, it still weighed on me. It wasn't official, not yet. The next year wasn't any easier, I still struggled a lot, but with the help of close friends and family, my divorce got finalized, and by her second birthday everything finally changed. The name was approved, signed, legal, Anna. I can't even describe the feeling of seeing it written properly for the first time. It felt like I could finally breathe. Like something that had been hanging over us for 2 years had finally been lifted. We celebrated twice that day. One for her birthday and one for her name. I was over the moon. Truly happy in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. It took my husband 2 years to fully understand the damage he had caused. 2 years to realize that what he thought was a joke had real consequences. Now he's in therapy, trying to fix parts of himself he had already walked away from. And me, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. With my daughter, with Anna. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. But it became peaceful, and for me that was everything. I bought a house, one that was quieter now, not empty, not lonely, just calm in a way I had never experienced before. No tension sitting in the air, no waiting for the next joke that would go too far, no explaining someone else's behavior to people who didn't understand, just me and Anna. She grew into her name so naturally, like it had always been hers. Bright, curious, full of personality. She laughed easily, loved loudly. And had this way of looking at the world like everything in it was worth discovering. Sometimes I would just sit and watch her play, completely in awe of her. I used to think I stayed in that marriage for her. But the truth was, leaving was the best thing I ever did for both of us. Her father still came around. Not as often as before, but enough. And I could see the difference in him. He was quieter now, more careful with his words, like he was finally learning that not everything was a joke. One afternoon, he was sitting on the floor with Anna, helping her stack blocks. She knocked them over and burst into laughter, and for a second, he just watched her, really watched her. I messed up, he said quietly, not looking at me. I didn't respond. I didn't think, I never think, he added, his voice heavier than I'd ever heard it. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, not out of anger anymore, just distance. I know I can't fix it, he continued. But I'm trying. And for the first time, I believed him. Not enough to go back. But enough to let go of the anger I had been holding on to. Because I didn't need it anymore, I had moved on. My life wasn't about surviving him or fixing him or explaining him. It was about raising my daughter. Protecting her. Giving her the kind of life where she would never question her worth. Where her name would never be something she had to fight for. Where she would never feel like a joke. As she got older, people would sometimes ask about her name. Why I smiled so much when I said it, why I corrected anyone who got it wrong so quickly. And I would just look at her and smile. Because they didn't know the story behind it. They didn't know how hard I fought for something as simple as a name, but I did. And one day when she's old enough to understand, I'll tell her everything. Not with anger, not with pain, but with pride. Because she wasn't just given a name. She earned it.